All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This week, we're going to be talking all about child welfare and career opportunities in child welfare with a CJ um, degree. And so, you guys get to hear me talk about child welfare all the time. And so, I wanted to bring in someone who you have not heard from. So, welcome, Miss Celeste Brown, who is a CPS investigator at the Division of Family and Children Services in Murray County, where my hometown. So, Celeste, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you. And so, the reason I asked Celeste to join us is because Celeste and I actually graduated from the same program. I think I graduated maybe a year or two ahead of Celeste. Was that right, Celeste?
Yeah, I believe so. A year, I think.
Okay. And so we have very similar backgrounds in our education, had a lot of the same professors and things like that. So Celeste wound up coming into child welfare, much like I did, kind of fell into it. So I wanted her to kind of give you her perspective. So Celeste, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, but just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your academic background.
Okay, so I actually went to school very late in life. When I was younger, I wanted to do law. And life left, and I ended up having a kid and put all that off and doing all that. So I figured, the next best thing was to do a criminal justice degree and kind of see where I could go from there. So I ended up at Dalton State. I done my bachelor degree in criminal justice, and I have a minor in psychology. And I am currently now working on my master's at Valdosta State in social work.
Very cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So, child, let's start with this one. How did you wind up working for DFACS after you graduated?
So I spent a little time in probation. I decided that was not for me. I didn't love it, so I went back to kind of what I'd always done. I was like a short order cook. Spent several years doing that, and then decided, I spent way too much money on my bachelor's degree not to be doing something. So when I started looking for jobs, DFACS kind of popped up, and I interviewed and started from there, and it's been the roller coaster ever since.
Yeah, that's an understatement. So you kind of fell into child welfare, you would say.
Yep, tripped right over it.
Okay. So child welfare isn't typically a career outlook with somebody with a CJ background, a lot of times that you would think about. And we kind of both fell into it. But how does having a CJ degree help you in child welfare?
So first off, if you're in the criminal justice program, you're kind of investigative minded. And that's one of the major things that you're going to do in CPS is, you're frontline worker, you're going out, you're assessing safety for kids, you're finding out about the past and anything that's going on with them that may be causing the neglect or abuse issues. Another thing that is very helpful is, learning about the court system from your classes. Kind of the lingo. You're dealing with attorneys in court, judges, all that kind of thing. So it's good to have a little knowledge about court as you go in and start working.
Awesome. And I've also found it's easier as far as testifying goes. I found as a supervisor and then as an administrator and working within the region that those who have a CJ background are more comfortable testifying because they're used to that system.
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier. You kind of know, expect what's coming, so you're not just floored or sideswiped by some random question that the defense attorney might throw at you or something. So
right. So I always said, and my students will hear me say that going into child welfare, I got to be either the Elliot Stabler or Olivia Benson without the badge. Would you agree with that, and why?
I think so. Yeah. Because the kids are our population that we deal with the most. You know, you're their advocator. Um, you're trying to figure out who hurt them, why they hurt them, whether they're safe to go back. You know, so basically they're depending on you and the system to kind of keep them safe.
Awesome. And you're still getting to do like all of the investigative stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That law enforcement would do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, law enforcement goes out with guns and we go out with a clipboard. You know, and I've been out on several cases where law enforcement is just standing there and they're like, okay, you go first. So like, all right, just hold your gun and look cute, you know? Don't let
Right,
me get shot. That's all I'm asking.
right. So you've worked, child welfare has several different options and avenues as far as like child protective services, which I heard you say was CPS, you
Right.
called it, it's an acronym. But then there's also the foster care side as well, and you've done some work in both sections, right?
I have, yeah. CPS actually includes investigations, family preservation, which is where we work with the family and do intensive services to try to keep the children from being removed. And then once they're removed, they go to foster care and at that point, you're kind of working with the family and getting them the help they need to be able to know how to keep the children safe so they can return home.
Do you think that your CJ experience makes CPS or foster care more enjoyable?
Um, I enjoy CPS much more than I did foster care. Um, foster care is more long term, like you're working with the same families for months, you know, possibly years sometimes. The investigation side, you know, 30 to 45 days you're out, it moves on and you're doing something else. So there's never that time to get bored with a case or um, you know, kind of just be like, okay, they're not doing anything, what can I do? That kind of thing. So by that point you've handed it off and there's somebody else is working with them and you know, you're moving on to the next one to see how you can help them.
Awesome. So it is a very fast paced section.
Oh, it is for sure.
Okay. And I know something that I always enjoyed was you never know what you're going to get in a given day. So like I could get a dirty home and then a child death.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, we were sitting in an agency meeting. Law enforcement called and said, hey, we got a dead kid. We need some help. So, you know, left the meeting to go handle that. So you never know.
yeah, it's a wild ride. So do you enjoy your job?
I do. I do. You know, it's one of those things where you don't ever know what's happening, so you don't have time to get bored. Um, you know, it's something different every single day. Um, a lot of times we work with the same families, but also you see um like different people making the reports on the same family. So, you know, you may have them um this month and then, you know, 8 months from now you go back in and it's something different, but not near as severe as it was this time. So you still see the progress that the family's making, you know. Um yeah, there's just not a lot of time to be bored. It's so yeah, I definitely enjoy it.
Awesome. So what are some of the challenges of working in child welfare?
So the biggest challenge is for me is having to do a removal. You know, if a kid is found unsafe, we have to call for custody and then immediately take that kid out. So you're dealing with a screaming child that's terrified because they're being taken away from their parents, no matter what they done. You're getting cussed out by the parents. You know, it's just everything. But the I think the worst part of it is, you know, you got that kid in the car and you're trying to take it back to the office to find placement, and that kid's just crying and crying, and you know, most of the time they don't even understand. They think it's something they've done. So that's one of my biggest challenges. But as far as the agency itself, I think this is a job that you get burned out on very quickly if you don't take care of yourself. Um, resources are limited, especially in a small county like ours. It's hard to find what we need. Um, and then turnover. Turnover insane. We can't keep people.
So you touched on self-care, and we've talked a little bit about self-care and criminal justice in the class. What advice would you give to people that are going into criminal justice systems about self-care? Like how do you do self-care?
So what I always tell my people is, you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself. So it can be as simple as, making sure you step away from your desk at lunch, get up and take a 15-minute break if you're getting overwhelmed. Always talk to somebody, either a coworker, a peer, or a therapist if you need it, just make sure you got that work-life balance. Because if not, you'll get overwhelmed and you're going to burn out and you're going to be done with the whole mess.
And a little self-disclosure, guys. I was actually Celeste's supervisor when she came in to DFACS. And I always remember that the piece of advice I gave her was put your phone away when you're not on call. That's the biggest kind of self-care advice that I was given and had a very hard time doing. So you've got to set those boundaries, I think.
Boundaries are so important. Yeah. And it's one of those things you get caught up in, and you're like, oh, I can do this. I can make sure everybody's okay. And what are they going to do if I'm not available to answer the phone call? So, if you set that straight in the beginning, that will save you a lot of heartache and time and sanity.
Awesome. So what advice would you give someone who wants to pursue a child welfare career?
Okay, so my first thing, and one of the hardest things that I've had to learn, is know your biases. Don't go in expecting the best or the worst. Just go in open-minded. This job is very, very hard. There's days that you may leave work crying. There's days that you're going to leave work happy. But all in all, it is a roller coaster, but it's definitely worth it.
Awesome. And our final question, Celeste, is what do you wish someone would have told you when you were still in school?
I think the biggest thing would have been that life's going to throw you curveballs that you're never going to see coming. So while you're in college, it's your time to try new things. If you're interested in one thing, do an internship there and then go to something different. Explore all the things that you're interested in before you commit to something.
I think that's great. We actually have talked about internship opportunities and things like that. And I think that's a great bit of advice. Don't get too pigeonholed while you're in college.
If there's something that you don't think you ever want to do in life, try it, because it's 4 months and you're done if you hate it, but at least for sure that's, and doing our internship in the master's program, I've met several people that have said, I never wanted to work with old people, or I never wanted to work with kids. And, they've only been in there at this point, like 4 months, and they're like, wow, I actually love this. And, this may be the direction I take when we graduate. So, don't limit yourself.
Very cool. Well, Celeste, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're always on the run, especially working CPS. So is there anything you kind of want to leave us with? Any words of wisdom?
I guess just, the system always needs good people, whether it be the criminal justice system or the child welfare system. It's easy to get caught up and turned around in things, but at the end of the day, there's people out here that we have to advocate for, and help that can't help themselves. So kind of just go forth and conquer.
I love that. All right, Celeste, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.